On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area, the League of Women Voters Warren and West Morris counties, the League of Women Voters Mountain Lakes, and the NAACP Morris County branch, I am pleased to welcome you to our virtual candidates forum for New Jersey Legislative District 25 Senate. My name is Jackie Cobb. I am a member of the Morristown Area League of Morris County and a member of the Morris County NAACP. The LWV is a nonpartisan political nonprofit that works to empower voters and defend democracy. Founded 100 years ago, we make democracy work by protecting voting rights and encouraging robust participation. We are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions candidates take on those issues. Our goal is to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. We envision a democracy where everyone has the right, the knowledge, the confidence, and the opportunity to participate. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or footage from this debate in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including internet, social media, cable, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. Co-sponsoring is the Morris County NAACP. Our mission is to secure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination and ensure the health and well-being of all persons. We look forward to continuing our work together. If you would like to participate in any of our efforts, the League actively seeks diversity in our membership. You must be 16 years of old and a U.S. citizen to be a voting member. Associate membership is open to everyone. We also encourage everyone to vote, to go to vote411.org, which provides a one-stop site for information on all aspects of voting in New Jersey, as well as information about all candidates up and down the ballot. All of our forums are being live streamed on the Morristown Area League of Women Voters YouTube channel. If you have questions about voting, mail-in ballots, or in-person voting, visit lwvnj.org. All ballots have been mailed, and if you haven't received yours yet, contact your county clerk's office. You may return your ballot through the mail in a secure Dropbox location directly to your Board of Elections or to a polling site on Election Day. If you go to the polling site to vote in person on Election Day, you will be asked to fill out a provisional ballot. After this Senate forum follows the District 25 Assembly Forum at 8 p.m. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Michelle Bobrow. Per league practice, she is not from this voting district. Michelle is a league-trained moderator and a member of the Maplewood South Orange League of Women Voters. She will introduce the candidates and outline the format for this event. Michelle, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. This is an election like no other due to COVID-19 and mainly vote by mail. All active voters should have received the ballot to be filled out along with the certification envelope and returned in the outer envelope, in the mail, in a ballot drop box, or to your polling location at any time before the polls close on November 3rd. You can determine if you are registered or track your ballot on the New Jersey website, vote.nj.gov, G-O-V. Voting at the polls on Election Day is only by provisional ballot or on a voting machine only for the handicapped. Tonight, we are going to hear from first the Legislative District 25 Senate candidates, followed later this evening by the Assembly candidates. The rules for tonight's forum have been developed by the League of Women Voters and agreed to by the candidates. The rules for tonight's forum have been, the material presented tonight is the property of the League and no portions may be excerpted for use in any promotional materials or campaign. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement by each candidate in the order in which they are on the ballot. Then I will pose questions previously submitted by the public, which have been edited somewhat for clarity. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to rebut. We will end with a 2-minute closing statement. The timekeeper will show a yellow warning indicating 30 seconds remain and then red for stop. The Senate candidates for Legislative District 25, again in the order on which they appear in your ballot, are Ms. Rupenda Mehta, Democrat, and Senator Anthony M. Bucco, Republican. Your opening statement, Ms. Mehta.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Rupenda Mehta, and I am running for State Senate in District 25. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this debate and to all of you for watching. My story is a story of dreams. Born and raised in Mumbai, India, I came to the United States 18 years ago in search of a better life. Leaving behind a life of abject abuse, I came searching for freedom, economic independence, and a chance at survival. After getting my MBA, I came to New York and started working in the corporate sector. Met my husband, and soon after we got married. My life's proudest moment came in 2012 when our only daughter, Sophie, was born, followed by my second proudest moment in 2017 when I raised my right hand and became a United States citizen. I'm running because I believe representation matters. The state of our democracy is under attack. We need strong leadership that will represent us in Trenton and not choose political gain over women's healthcare and critical relief for small businesses and frontline workers suffering from this deadly pandemic. Senator Bucco praised Donald Trump when he said he has an amazing ability to talk clearly and simply. And Donald Trump told the country not to be afraid of COVID-19. They were both wrong. But this election is not about Democratic or Republican. This election is about sensible leadership that will listen to the right data and science to try and prevent the further spread of this deadly virus. Leadership that is elected, not inherited. If elected this November, I will work with both sides of the aisle to ensure that I represent only the interest of my constituents and be that independent voice in the Senate this district sorely lacks. I'm sure together we will create a better future for all residents of District 25. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bucco.
Thank you. I want to thank the League and the NAACP for hosting tonight's event. Welcome, everybody. As I'm sure everybody can understand, last year was a very difficult year for me. Anytime a child loses a parent, it's not easy. It's even harder in my case, where my father was not only my colleague in the legislature, but also my best friend. But that is why we're here tonight. As a result of his passing, I'm forced to run again this year in order to fulfill his unexpired term. It's a legacy that I'm honored and proud to continue. I'm also proud of my bipartisan record of introducing common sense legislation that has resulted in over 100 pieces of legislation becoming law in a democratically controlled legislature. Laws like the creation of the Class 3 police officer to protect our school children and houses of worship, securing $500,000 in annual funding for Lake Apacon to protect our lake and the environment and the regional economy. My safe dating legislation that shows students what are and aren't proper relationships. My bipartisan COVID relief legislation that has helped our economy and our state recover from this COVID crisis. And working across the aisle with Congresswoman Cheryl and Governor Cody to secure an additional $7 million for the County of Morris when they were frozen out in the initial round of the CARES Act funding. I'm also proud of the constituent services and the work my staff and I have been able to provide to our residents. 1,500 unemployment claims that have been processed and people receiving the money they deserve. Motor vehicle issues for seniors and folks with underlying conditions that we've been able to clear. licensing of healthcare providers to get to the front line quicker during the middle of the crisis, securing meals for our frontline workers, battered women's shelter, St. Peter's Orphanage, and the New Jersey Firemen's Home, and many more. This is about leadership. And I've proven over the years of my service in the legislature that I'm somebody that can get things done and is responsible to constituents in my district. And I look forward to continuing that position in the following year.
Thank you very much. The first question that has been submitted is, please detail how you intend to support women's rights as state senator, and please comment on your past experiences and actions that show your commitment to women's health and economic well-being. Mr. Bucco.
Well, I am the proud father of 4 daughters and an even prouder grandfather of 2 young granddaughters. And I've worked extremely hard to make sure that women have equal rights. I voted for one of the most strongest equal pay legislations in the state history, probably the strongest in the country. In 2018, the Diane Allen Equal Pay for Women's Act. I also have introduced legislation that would require insurance companies to pay claims that are submitted by young women who are under the age for breast cancer testing and have been denied by our insurance companies. That legislation is critical so women can get the care that they need. I've also introduced legislation to provide insurance coverage to cancer patients to make sure when they file a claim, the initial answer is not no from their insurance company. As a cancer survivor, that's been critically important to me to make sure people have access to health care, but especially women when it comes to breast cancer.
Thank you. Ms. Maida?
Thank you very much. I have been a women's advocate my entire life. I have worked as a domestic violence advocate, where I have helped countless women who have suffered through violence and abuse. But I would like to state this for the record, that Senator Bucco has implicitly and time and again voted for women's healthcare. He has voted for funding for women's healthcare. He has voted against equal pay for women. He's voted against cancer screenings and prenatal availability for women. And he voted for EDA funding for those companies who are required to pay women fairly. He has voted against all of these pieces of legislation. So my record for women is very clear. I have always worked for women, and I have been a champion for women every chance I have received.
Thank you. Next, what will you do to make healthcare and education more affordable in the state of New Jersey? Ms. Maida?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, Michelle?
What will you do to make healthcare and health education more affordable in the state of New Jersey?
Thank you. So this starts with expanding the ACA. I think one of the first things that we need to do is to continue working on creating the state-based exchange that Governor Murphy has so well worked towards. We need to make sure that everybody who wants healthcare can afford quality healthcare. This is a different time. We're in the midst of an unprecedented global health crisis. Everyone who wants healthcare should be able to receive healthcare. We go back and we look at all of these pieces of legislation. We need to expand Medicaid to ensure more folks can be covered. But all of these pieces of legislation, whether it comes to expanding the ACA or having more folks through the Medicaid program, all of these programs over time and again have been voted against by Senator Bucco.
Mr. Bucco?
Unfortunately, my opponent just doesn't get it. She supports, and it's probably a different philosophy here, she supports taxpayer-funded insurance. Whereas I think in New Jersey, which is so unaffordable as it is, we need to be able to open up competition amongst our insurance companies, allow them to sell insurance policy, healthcare insurance policy across state lines. Look at the regulations so that people can better adjust their insurance policies to suit their need. That will bring the cost of health insurance down, not penalize people. You know, the old saying, you always get more from the carrot than the stick. And we need to make health insurance affordable so that people can afford to get it and use it. And that's where I think my opponent just lacks the understanding of just how that process works.
May I?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, this is more than just a difference of opinion or mindset. We've seen since the ACA has been introduced, thousands of people who could insurance, but not about between these. This actually work public and making sure that people who do not have insurance can get insurance. I don't understand if we don't take the stand in the midst of a global pandemic, when are we going to agree that people deserve healthcare that is quality and it is available at a low cost?
If I may.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. People are going to get health insurance if they can afford it. And if they can't afford it, they're going to walk away from it. And we've seen that here in New Jersey, even with this process in place. You know, our hospitals are still seeing charity care in record numbers. So we need to address the affordability problem to make sure that people can afford the insurance, that they will then take it. And that's what's critical here. The affordability of insurance is the most important thing. And I support affordable health care for all.
This is a two-part thing. This is affordability, but is also access.
No, please address this in your closing remarks.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
One rebuttal each. Sorry. We're moving across the pond to Sweden. Sweden has basically the same population as the New Jersey. However, in Sweden, they never locked down. Their regulations were much more unregulated, much looser than ours. And there are stringent regulations here in New Jersey. How do you justify the regulations that have been imposed in New Jersey, including for young and healthy citizens? And the question is that the survival rate for young ones is much, much greater than it is for people of my hair color and age. So can you please discuss the situation for reaction to COVID-19 in New Jersey, Mr. Bucco?
Sure, thank you. You know, I think in the beginning of this pandemic, the governor did the right thing. He essentially, shut everything down. We got a handle on the crisis, and we had to have a time period in which to give our hospitals an opportunity to treat the patients that were coming in. And I think he did a good job at flattening the curve. And in fact, that's what he's asked of everybody. I think over time, what we need to do is open our economy slowly. And I think we've begun that process. But I think we have to do it a little bit more. And I think we have to recognize that there are some with underlying conditions and our seniors that are more susceptible to this disease. And then that there are others that aren't. And people will make choices as to where they want to go and where and when they want to go there. So we need to have just a little bit more leeway here, and we need to make sure that our hospitals are prepared to treat those that may get sick. Because in the beginning, I don't think our hospitals were ready for the start of this pandemic. They have now got the necessary PPE. They've got tested medications that they've used and have experience with. And I think as a result of that, you're going to see a lot lower hospital rate than we did in the past.
Thank you. Ms. Maida?
So this is a very interesting example of Sweden. Sweden is not in isolation when we talk about the countries that have been able to control this pandemic. We look at New Zealand as another example that has managed to control the spread of this virus. It's very simple. When we look at our experts, we look at Dr. Fauci. He says if people wear a mask, if people were to simply put a mask on, it would stop the spread of this virus, and a lot of things would be under control a lot faster. Right now, we're seeing a situation where the president of the United States refuses to wear a mask in spite of being affected by COVID. And we see somebody like Senator Bucco who refuses to say a single word, despite so many of our seniors and so much of our population affected by this virus and so many lives that were lost and we're continuing to lose to this virus every single day.
If I may say something, please.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Rupanda, you have the right to your opinion, but you don't have the right to twist the facts. And that's exactly what you're doing here. I wear a mask, and I encourage everyone around me to wear a mask. I have the responsibility to care for my mother, who's 81 years old and has Parkinson's disease. I also have an underlying condition as a cancer patient. So let me tell you, nobody is more cautious than I am when I go out or I'm around other people. So I just find it disingenuous, and I find it appalling that you could take that type of approach and say those things when you have no idea what the true facts are.
Senator, with all due respect, I think I have seen the true facts. I have seen that you advocated for opening the state up. I've seen that you've ignored the science that has been put in forth by healthcare experts. And I have seen the tenacity with which you have advocated for opening indoor dining, in spite of our experts saying that we need to slow that down and we need a more methodical approach in opening the state up.
Slightly changing the subject. Governor Murphy has proposed an energy master plan that moves New Jersey away from fossil fuels to emission-free energy. There are no cost estimates available yet for the plan. Do you support or oppose the philosophy of it? Ms. Maida.
The energy master plan as proposed by Governor Murphy is a very ambitious plan. The truth of the matter is that climate change is the single biggest threat to life on this planet. We need to take care of our climate, and we need to invest in alternatives that will help us create a sustainable future. I believe that we need more emphasis on renewable energy. We need to decrease our dependence on fossil fuels, and we need to look at the goals that are outlined in the Energy Master Plan. The League of Conservative Voters have given one of the lowest ratings to Senator Bucco because he does not believe in protecting the environment. This is also about creating a green technology, a green industry, and creating countless jobs here in New Jersey for all of us.
Mr. Bucco?
It's funny that that's what Rapunda says now, but when you look back and you look at her statements of earlier, you will find she's a strong supporter of the governor's energy master plan, which many experts have suggested could raise energy bills 3 times, which will have a horrible impact on our seniors and low and middle income families. It also would require people to remove appliances from their homes and replace them, and during times of outages would cause havoc for our entire state. This energy master plan is a disaster. And you don't have to look any further. The fact that the administration was supposed to put out a cost analysis on how much it would cost to get there, and they've still refused to do it for many, 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 many months now, because they know that the cost of eliminating clean natural gas will drive up energy bills, which will make New Jersey even more unaffordable.
Senator, a few moments ago, you called me disingenuous. I have to remind you that time and again, twisting words of people does not make you get to the truth. I have not ever advocated for appliances to be removed from people's homes. Never have I ever said that seniors will be left out in the cold. If you don't believe that climate change is a single biggest threat to our planet, you mentioned that you have children and grandchildren. I have a daughter too, and I would like to leave an earth behind for her, which is not completely messed up and has a chance for her to survive and live to her fullest potential.
If I may. You have supported the governor's energy master plan, and the governor's energy master plan moves to eliminate the use of clean natural gas. And all the experts are in agreement that eliminating the use of clean natural gas will cause havoc for our residents in the state of New Jersey. Look no further than California, where in the hottest days of summer, they have to have rolling brownouts because they can't keep up with the demand. That's the type of far left policy that you support.
Okay, moving to education. High quality schools are an important part of the property values in Morris County. What policies should Trenton be considering to protect our schools and access to a good education? Mr. Bucco.
Well, first and foremost, I think that the Department of Education needed to provide more guidance during this COVID crisis to our schools. I think there was a lack of guidance and a lack of leadership there. And essentially what the governor did was allow each school to come up with their own plan. And I think that left a lot of parents in a lurch. And I think that that's a problem. The other thing is, when you look at this budget, while the governor raised taxes, borrowed $4.5 billion, and is spending more than 15% over 3 years, we have school districts here in our legislative district that are losing millions of dollars. That's a direct increase in property taxes for those local municipalities. Municipalities like Roxbury, Washington Township, Randolph are slated in this budget to lose millions of dollars. The local governments can't pick that up. The local school boards can't pick that up. And as a result of that, as a result of Trenton not being able to come up with a fair funding formula, property taxes will continue to rise.
Your response, Ms. Maida?
Thank you. So I think we do need to look at the school funding formula. I think that there have been several towns here in the district that have lost school funding in the past budget. That is definitely something that deserves another look. But there's a lot of areas in our schools that we do need to invest in as well. We need to put more money into resources for our schools. We need to make sure that they're safe, no gun zones in our schools. We need to address the digital divide. I think one of the things that the COVID-19 pandemic has done is shown a spotlight on the cracks in our society. And we need to ensure that we take the lessons that we have learned as a result of this and move it further into an era where there is more access to resources for all students. We're very proud of the schools in New Jersey, and we continue to remain proud of them, but we need to continue to invest in them so that they stay at the level that they are.
If I may, just for 1 second, thank you, and I'll be brief. I also think we need to make sure that our teachers are protected during this crisis in the school system. They have difficult jobs, and we need to make sure that they have the resources available to them to be effective teachers. We need to make sure that our school children are being educated up to grade level. And I have a bill that would establish a program to make sure that we study that going forward to see the impacts that the COVID crisis has had. But my opponent fully supported this governor's budget, and this governor's budget, without any stretch of the imagination, has cut millions of dollars to our school system here in New Jersey, here in the 25th legislative district.
Thank you.
Funny you say that, Senator. First of all, I'm not in the Senate, so my support for that is not the same as any other thing. Second of all, the COVID-19 bill that had a lot of funding for teachers, you voted against it, so we can't talk of both sides.
Keeping on education, do you support the proposed regionalization plan to combine K-8 school districts with nearby K-12 school districts? Ms. Maida?
I support regionalizing the administrative core. I think that one of the ways that we can reduce taxes is to work towards regionalizing. Shared services is a big part of this. We've been able to save $35 million just in 2019 through shared services. And we need to look at all revenue sources that also help us with reducing taxes. So if elected to the Senate, I will work towards centralizing the administrative core of schools. Centralization does not, however, mean that the children are bused far away. It just means that the bureaucracy has been eliminated or reduced, and it makes it more affordable for families in the district.
Mr. Bucco?
I believe in school districts and in coordination with the teaching staff and the administration, looking at these various options. Yes, I do believe that there are situations where we can save some dollars through shared services and consolidation. But I think it's got to be a joint effort. Everybody's got to be involved and have a seat at the table before those decisions can be met. You know, educating our children is one of the most important things that we can do. And it's important that that we get it right. And I think that what we're doing now under this COVID crisis, I think we've got to keep a careful eye on, because with the lack of technology for some students and their ability to gain access to technology, as well as going back and forth between in-person and remote learning, is going to have an impact on their education. So I think there's a whole look at this education process that we're going to have to do moving forward.
Thank you. New Jersey continues to be one of the most expensive states in which to live. What are your ideas to make it more affordable? Mr. Bucco?
Well, first of all, we need to get a handle on our budget. You know, you can't have a budget that increased spending over 3 years by 15%, that raises taxes on income, corporate business tax, increases in the gas tax, increasing in tolls, and a 70% tax on HMOs. And then on top of all that, borrowing $4.5 billion and putting it on the backs of our children. That's just irresponsible policy. And the experts all agree, at least during a program I listened to on the New Jersey Hills newspapers, the experts are saying that we're facing a physical cliff. And if we don't get our budget in order, we're going to go off the edge of that cliff. And it's unfortunate that Rapunda may say that she's not a senator, so she didn't vote on the budget, but she certainly didn't speak up against it. In fact, she's saying that she supported many of those items in that budget that have increased taxes and made it more affordable for our residents here in New Jersey.
Ms. Maida?
Thank you. It's no secret that taxes are high in New Jersey. And if I'm elected, I will explore every method from shared services to alternative revenue sources to reduce taxes. Senator Bucco has been in the legislature for over a decade, and the tax burden has consistently risen on New Jersey families. He voted against shared services and does not believe in centralizing the administrative core. We're at a point of crisis in this country and in this state. If we are not exploring every possible revenue source to dig us out of this COVID-19 pandemic, I think it's a moral abdication of our duty.
If I may, Rapunda again needs to get her facts straight. I support shared services. I've supported them from the very beginning. But you, on the other hand, were quoted in a Daily Record of saying lowering taxes is not an option. So you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth, as you would say, because that's where your quotes, your words. And you've supported a budget this cycle that increases taxes across the board, increases spending, and borrows $4.5 billion. We are only one of 2 states in the entire country that borrowed money during this pandemic. The other one was Illinois, and they only borrowed $1 billion. That policy is irresponsible.
Senator, it's again false information that you're spreading one more time. I have never said anything like that. And I think that in order to work out of this pandemic, we need to look at every possible solution. I would ask you, you've been in the legislature for as long as you've been. What sort of tactics and what sort of legislation have you worked in a bipartisan manner to reduce taxes?
Just one thing was the 2% property tax cap that passed the legislature.
Thank you.
Bipartisan support.
Thank you. Moving on to a totally different subject. After the death of George Floyd, many Americans supported a movement to defund the police departments. How would you react to that? Is that something you support, or would you amend it? How do you feel? Ms. Maida?
So I do not believe in the term defunding the police. I think it is misleading, and I think it is incorrect. We need to invest in our communities, and we need to create more opportunities for our residents. In addition, we need to ensure that our police officers have the tools they need to effectively perform their job. This means a person trained in de-escalation techniques, access to body cams, implicit bias training programs, and mental health resources for our officers who are subjected to a very difficult job every day. Also, Senator Bucco touts his law enforcement support, but in 2011, he voted for Bill S-2937 that removed cost of living adjustments for our police officers and firefighters, as well as legislation. He voted against legislation to provide home buyer incentives. I promise to always work towards such legislation.
Mr. Bucco.
Again, Rapunda says one thing and preaches another. Back in 2018, when she was running for freeholder, her team sponsored or proposed taking money from the sheriff's office and giving it to the arts. While no one supports the arts more than I do, can you imagine if they had been elected and they had defunded the sheriff's office and today's crisis hit with the homelessness, suicides, and opioid crisis? We would have been in a terrible, terrible position. Now, George Floyd, the death of George Floyd was a tragedy, and those officers should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. But we also have to remember that a vast majority of our law enforcement are good, honest people that are out there working hard to protect us, and we need to support them. And as a result of my legislative record, I've got the endorsement of the PBA and other law enforcement agencies. So, Rapunda can say one thing, but the facts speak for themselves.
Senator, the fact is that on the New Jersey legislature website, you have voted against having cost of living adjustments for police officers and firefighters. You have voted against any sort of legislation to have them home buyer incentives. Those are the facts. Everything else is not true.
Well, let me tell you a little something, Rapunda, that if you look at the vast majority of the bills that you reference, you will find that they were not bipartisan bills. In fact, many of those bills had no votes from your own party, either no votes, abstentions, or folks that just didn't vote. Why? Because they were bad pieces of legislation. The easiest way to find out if something is a bad piece of legislation is to watch across the aisle and see how those in competitive districts, how they respond. And most of those bills that you reference, you will find did not pass with bipartisan support.
I am not running on a bipartisan. I'm not running on a party line. I will be an independent voice in the Senate.
Thank you. Speaking of finances, the governor's budget raised taxes and borrowing, as we know, by billions of dollars. What would you support in the state budget, and what would you not? What would you like to cut, Mr. Bucco?
Well, there's a number of areas I think that we could look at, and I've advocated from the very beginning. I served on seven budgets on the budget committee, and I've said from the very beginning that I think what the state needs to do is break the budget down to its simplest points and determine what we have to do, what we'd like to do, and what we no longer can afford to do. And we need to make those adjustments, because continuing to increase the budget year after year after year is just driving our economy and driving our state further and further into a hole. And we've seen that. We've got the worst business tax climate in the country. Business and families are fleeing New Jersey in record numbers. So if we don't get a handle on the affordability side of our ledger, we're going to see more and more people leaving the state, which will make it more expensive for those that are left.
Ms. Maida?
I think this talking point of more and more people leaving the state is simply that. It is a talking point. It is a myth that is perpetuated to scare people into the property taxes and further talking points of the Republican Party. I think that this pandemic, again, has shown a spotlight on the various things that are wrong in society. We need to look at every possible revenue source that we can find in order to fund and get out of this hole.
Let me just say something. Rapunda sounds a lot like one of the former budget officers that would always say, we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. And when somebody says we have a revenue problem, what that equates to is raising your taxes and borrowing more money to keep up with the insatiable spending that we've seen during this administration.
Senator, I would request that you please not put words in my mouth. I have never said that. This is about looking at all possible sources and coming to a prudent decision.
The opioid epidemic is plaguing New Jersey, and COVID amplifies concerns related to addiction. What can be done to address this in New Jersey? Ms. Maida.
So the opioid epidemic has been a problem. We've had issues with the opioids for a long time. The closing of facilities such as Daytop has further exacerbated the problem. But the problem here is that we need to, while we invest in programs like Daytop, we also need to look at the intersectionality of problems that are caused by and from substance abuse. We need to fund drug programs, but we also need to fund problems of poverty, of homelessness, and creating more job opportunities, expanding healthcare and WIC programs. Just working on drug programs while voting no on everything else, like the senator has done, doesn't solve anything.
Mr. Bucco?
Everyone knows that I've been a strong advocate for alcoholism and drug abuse, for treatment and education here in the 25th District. I was a founding member on the board of DATOP. I was there that brought DATOP to New Jersey. And let me tell you, when I was working with Senator Cody across the aisle and with Congresswoman Cheryl to try to save DATOP and request that the administration provide the funding, Rapunda Mehta was silent. I didn't hear a word. She didn't call and say, hey, how can I lend a hand? Programs like the Sheriff's Hope One vehicle, which I helped and worked with him to get on board, to be around the county, to bring that treatment and education to the spots where it's most necessary. Those are the type of programs that we need to continue. And we need to make sure that people are educated. You know, it was my legislation that passed on a bipartisan basis that established Opioid Overdose Awareness Day, which we celebrated here in Morris County for the first time this year. Those are the type of things that you use that I've been able to do on a bipartisan basis to address this crisis.
Thank you.
So DATOP is the result of a law of unintended consequences, but it's also the result of lack of long-term thinking and understanding of the opioid crisis. When the whole thing was going on with DATOP, I did make a public comment of how this was unfair and this was unfortunate. But again, I would go back to my point. We cannot just work on drug and substance abuse issues and forego everything else that is happening. Solving this problem is like working in a vacuum. My experience as a project manager means I need to look at all angles and all sides, and that's how I work on solving problems.
Throughout this pandemic, Trenton's unemployment system was proven to be unable to meet the demand. What steps do you think we can take to fix this in the future and to get people back to work? Mr. Bucco.
Well, the very first thing we need to do is to make sure that the Department of Labor is responsive. They just haven't been. And the other thing is we need to get their antiquated computer system new. We need to get them a new computer system to be able to address the amount of claims that are being filed. You know, I'm proud of what my office has been able to do in this area. You know, when COVID first hit, many legislative offices shut down. I sent a note to my staff and said we were going to do a deep clean in the office, and then just my chief of staff would go into work every day. And as a result of that, we were able to, right from the beginning of this crisis, work to clear 1,500. Now it's over 1,500 claims for people that needed this unemployment insurance to survive. And we've done that through hard work every day, addressing issues and sending emails and claims down to the department, and in some instances directly to the governor's office, because we can't get a response from the Department of Labor.
Thank you. Ms. Mehta?
It's simple. The system was overwhelmed, but it also means that the system has aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced. But the fact of the matter here is that while millions of people throughout the country and thousands of people throughout the state of New Jersey were suffering because of this pandemic, Senator Bucco chose to vote against the bill that would provide relief to middle-class families, to our frontline workers, and to our small businesses. He voted in the past as well against programs that would provide loans to small businesses. This is a part of a clear pattern here.
If I may. When Rapunda says, I vote against certain things, she sometimes fails to tell you that by voting against the budget, which increased taxes, spending, and borrowing billions of dollars, that I voted against certain things in the budget. If she was really wanted to work on a bipartisan basis, she'd be looking for ways to compromise, to get things done. That's what I've done in Trenton, and that's what I will continue to do in the future. It's, you know, when you think about my time in Trenton and the fact that I've got over 100 pieces of legislation through and signed by the governor, that's pretty amazing when you think about the legislature being controlled by the Democratic Party. I had to have some friends on the other side of the aisle to get that done.
Thank you. What is the major issue that you would like to address in this term? Where are we? Mr. Bucco.
And I think you were Miss Maida.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's okay.
Am I going first? Just
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I think the issue, the number one issue that we are suffering through right now is the COVID-19 crisis. There's absolutely no other issue that takes precedence. We need a new playbook for all aspects of our lives. The current has also brought in need the health care. Like to work sure that the state transitions to a fully functioning state-based exchange to provide quality, affordable healthcare for all. As I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 has shown a spotlight on everything that is wrong in our community, and we need to take steps to fix that. So now, because pandemics are a thing, the next time one comes around, we're better prepared, and at least we have better insurance for all the members, all the residents of the state.
Thank you. Mr. Bucco?
I think there's two things. First and foremost, I think we need to address the COVID crisis, and we need to address how we begin to open up our economy and address the education of our children. I think that's all wrapped around the COVID issue. But underlying all of the rest of the state of New Jersey is this affordability issue. You know, people are leaving the state in droves because they can no longer afford to live here. And that's a result of high taxes. Property taxes continue to go up. You know, despite what Ms. Mehta has said, I voted for the historic 2% property tax cap that stopped the runaway property tax increases at 10 and 12%, and that has brought them down in line. Unfortunately, her party has decided to whittle away and give exceptions to that 2% cap. And we've seen a loosening of that cap all over. So now property taxes are beginning to increase again. We need to get a handle on that. We need to make it so that low and middle income families can afford to stay here and raise their families here.
Thank you.
I'm going to Trenton to be an independent voice for the people of this district. This is not about Democrat, but this is not about Republican. I'm not afraid to stand up to members of my own party and tell them if I have to vote against bills, if they harm the interests of the residents of LD 25. This is really not about being a Democrat at all. This is being an independent, something that this district unfortunately sorely lacks at the moment.
If I may, while you say one thing, again, the bills that you all point to were partisan pieces of legislation. So you can say one thing, but in fact, the facts and the issues that you're using say another.
I'm afraid it's time for your closing statements now. The hour just flew by. So we will start with Mr. Bucco.
Thank you. I'm proud of my service in the legislature in the state of New Jersey. I was born and raised in this district, and no one knows it more and its leaders better than me. I've fought hard to make sure that my district continues to be the best place to live, work, and raise a family. My common sense approach to addressing issues like affordability, keeping our families safe, fighting the opioid crisis, improving our education, and protecting the developmentally disabled has led to me being endorsed by the NJEA, police and firemen, the business community, and many more. I've been called a champion for the disabled and endorsed by the New Jersey Hills newspaper, which is the local newspapers that covers all the municipalities in our district. While my opponent would like the race to be about other things and continues to misdirect, the fact of the matter is this. This is a job you have to show up for, and you have to do the work. Unfortunately, when Rapunda was given an opportunity to serve her community in Denville, she missed 89% of the meetings. That's a fact. It's documented fact in the minutes. 24 out of 27 meetings she missed. In fact, I was with someone last night that lives in Denville, and they mentioned that very fact to me. So when you begin to think about who's best to represent you in Trenton, you need somebody that's willing to work across the aisle to get things done. I've proven that. My legislative record reflects that. You can point to various pieces of partisan legislation to try to deflect the truth, but people are smarter than that here in the 25th District. You can also look to the constituent services that myself and my office has provided. We've helped thousands of people during this pandemic. Other legislators or people may have just sat on their hands. We didn't. We worked hard, and we work hard every day. And I continue to work hard every day for the residents of this district, and they recognize that, and I look forward to continuing that reputation in the Senate next year.
Thank you. Ms. Maida.
Thank you. Thank you once again to the League of Women Voters for holding this discussion, and thank you all again for listening in. It is clear District 25 needs a new leader, a leader who will fight for our needs, will not constantly toe the party line, and not continuously prioritize politics, partisanship over responsibility. We need an independent voice in the Senate that is not afraid to take on its own party members, an independent voice that will fight for women instead of slashing their health care and opposing equal pay because their party bosses told them to do so. Time and again, Senator Bucco has proven he is not that voice. I started my life in a middle-class family in India. Through sheer grit and hard work, I've had the opportunity to make a life for myself and a very successful career. Becoming a citizen of this great nation was a dream come true. This country has given me everything beyond my wildest dreams. I will forever be grateful for that opportunity and never lose the resolve that allowed me to stand and fight for those dreams. This election is critically important for children like my daughter, Sophie, and countless others concerned with the next generation of dreams. We are at a crisis point. Over 8.6 million people in our country have been infected by the virus. And in Morris County alone, 8,600 people have felt the horrible impact of COVID-19. Nearly 900 people and their families in Dover and over 600 more in Morristown will tell you this virus does not care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It is nasty and it is deadly. And the only way to successfully move forward is to prioritize science. It would be my biggest honor to represent the constituents of this district and work for them. I appreciate the overwhelming support I have received in this campaign. Your voice will always matter to me, and I will do my best to ensure it is heard. I urge you to return your vote by mail ballot on or before November 3rd. My name is Rupande Mehta, and this election, I'm asking for your vote for State Senate in District 25. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates for sharing their views. They were very open, and there are differences. You will have to make a decision on or before Election Day. Thank you to the League's Women Voters of Morristown area, Mountain Lakes, and Warren and West Morris counties, to the Morris County NAACP, as well as to all who submitted thoughtful and pertinent questions for the candidates. Again, this is a presidential election unlike all others. In New Jersey, this will be mainly by mail. If you received your ballot in the mail, fill it out, including the reverse side for municipal and ballot questions. Make sure to fill in your choices with black or blue pen, filling it in the oval completely so that the scanner can read it. Insert your ballot into the certificate or smaller envelope. Fill in your information, including signing your name as it is printed on the envelope. Insert that into the outer envelope, filling in the bearer section if someone else will be returning your ballot. Return your ballot by 1, mailing it, 2, using a secure ballot drop box in your county, or returning it to your polling place on Election Day, or returning it to the county clerk. If you did not receive a ballot, contact the County Board of Elections or county clerk immediately. Only the physically disabled are allowed to vote on a machine on Election Day. You can track your ballot by going to vote.nj.gov. For further questions about voting, go to morriscountyclerk.org, votenj.gov, or lwvnj.org. Thank you all for attending tonight's virtual forum. We hope you come away informed and ready to vote your choice. Good evening.
Thank you.